Fox Hills is the location. Fox Hills. Okay. Fox Hills is the location now, heading north back towards Culver City. What do we got behind us, Vince, in terms of... Yeah. He's going pretty slow. Okay. And this toss, is it going to be real time or is it going to be on that delay too? Okay. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Perfect. Thank you, Pete. Okay, he's going to make a right turn. That's Culver City. Set. And in Inglewood actually, and it's heading eastbound here on Centinela. The pursuit started in Culver City, and that is why the Culver City Police Department, they're still the lead agency here. But yes, this pursuit has made its way primarily in the same neighborhood, starting in Culver City. It's in the Playa Del Rey area that we're hearing that an individual on a scooter may have been struck, possibly a pedestrian, but there's a lot of damage to this vehicle, indicating that it was a hard impact. The windshield of this older model maroon Honda is damaged. So again, either a pedestrian or possibly a person on one of those motorized scooters was struck in the Playa Del Rey area on Manchester and Pershing, near that intersection there. This pursuit has primarily been more of a slower speed pursuit, staying more on the north side of the LAX complex here, weaving its way through Inglewood, Culver City, Playa Del Rey. And again, it was in the Playa Del Rey area where that individual was struck. You could see that the windshield is badly damaged. Also, the back window looks to have some damage as well. Don't have any word on if there's any passengers, and because it doesn't look like those windows are tinted, it's hard from our vantage point to tell. But he is heading eastbound at a relatively slow speed when we look at a lot of pursuits here on Centinela, heading back into Inglewood. So if you look at a map and you see that general geographic area, we're looking at Inglewood, Playa Del Rey, and Culver City. Eastbound on Centinela here, making its way through the community of Inglewood. You can see the units trailing. Those are all Culver City police departments here. And so far, we haven't seen him drive erratically, this suspect, but he was earlier when he struck and likely injured an individual near or at the intersection of Manchester and Pershing. Making a right turn, meaning he'll be heading southbound now. We'll get that street for you here in just a moment. You can see a lot of traffic at the noon hour here in Southern California through this very busy community. He's heading back south now towards LAX into the Inglewood area. Yeah, and that would be a good try. At least you could see this stretch of La Tierra. He's traveling southbound La Tierra, driving through the center of traffic. Northbound is coming towards us. That northbound traffic is the side that's coming towards us. The southbound is just stopped here. So as you can see, he's using that center area, that open area, to make his way southbound. It did appear it's a male suspect from our vantage point. We have not gotten confirmation. We heard the same that possibly this started as a pursuit because this individual was wanted with an assault with a deadly weapon. Where that incident occurred, if that is the case, that's unknown at this time. Not a lot of details from the Culver City Police Department, but what we do know, and we can tell from the damage from this vehicle, Vanessa and Marla, is that that individual was hit hard near or at the intersection of Manchester and Pershing in Playa Del Rey. Southbound on La Tierra, approaching the 405 freeway and heading back towards LAX, stayed north of LAX, through Playa Del Rey, through Culver City, through Inglewood, and now back towards LAX, southbound on La Tierra. That's LAPD. LAPD joining in. And Culver City asked for that. That's exactly right. And heading southbound on La Tierra now. And now we have more units involved. And as this pursuit makes its way south, it would be in LAPD jurisdiction. And this happens a lot. We do see this with pursuits where agencies hand it off or at least ask for aid. And they're getting aid from a helicopter as well. An LAPD helicopter is circling overhead. So now a number of units tracking this southbound on La Tierra, heading back to an area we heard he was just before we arrived on scene, near the entrance to LAX at Sepulveda, where Sepulveda and Lincoln branch off. This is always a busy stretch, pretty much any time of day, and you can see a lot of traffic here. These units are trailing, the LAPD units are trailing a little closer, crossing airport now as we head towards LAX. Traffic up ahead doesn't look quite as bad. As we widen out, it looks like he's gone through that real busy stretch near the 405. We are now south of the 405 on La Tierra, as you make your way down back towards Sepulveda. Those are primarily the in-frame, the LAPD units. Well, as long as this vehicle is traveling below 35 miles an hour, they can try the pit maneuver where they try to spin him out. And up ahead, here we go. This could be it right now. He just may do it. Yes, he is, on cue, and there he goes, spinning him out here. He had an open area on La Tierra, not a lot of traffic, but he's not going to stop. He's going to keep going. This guy is running. Wow, that was a successful pit maneuver, but he's continuing on, and now he's picking up speeds. But for the most part, the LAPD and other agencies try to use that 35-mile-an-hour threshold. Speeds below 35 miles an hour, they try the pit. Obviously, they look at other vehicular traffic to make sure that nobody would be in immediate danger. Crossing over Manchester, southbound on La Tierra, heading towards the Westchester area and into that very busy LAX complex where they will encounter, this pursuit will, a tremendous amount of traffic. Is going to be making a bend here on the right, and you know this also well. If you take La Tierra, it's going to merge here with Sepulveda right after this little bend, and we'll see what this suspect decides to do. As you guys indicated, this suspect initially was trying to make his or her way. Still no confirmation on the gender of the suspect. Towards the officers with all that traffic. And let's see what he does now. He's going through the intersection. Looks like he's got a green light, but he is going to continue now in a westbound direction. So he's not making that left turn onto Sepulveda to make his way towards LAX, at least not from this point. So we'll see what he does here. He's coming up on an area again. Not a whole lot of traffic. It looks like there may be another opportunity here for another pit maneuver. Looking up ahead, heading towards Westchester Parkway. Let's see what happens here. He's not. Let's see if this lead officer, veers a bit to the right and tries to spin him out. The pursuit was successful in not terminating the pursuit, but it certainly spun him out. But his car wasn't disabled. He still wasn't blocked in, so he was able to make a 180 and continue on his way. And he's continuing now. He's going to make that bend now down towards Lincoln, it looks like. It looks like he's going to try another, here he goes again. Another open area, spins him out. You could see that badly damaged windshield, too, almost hitting the curb. Let's see if this officer tries to ram him. They really want to bring this to an end. They know that this guy has already struck and likely injured or badly injured an individual, a pedestrian possibly, or somebody on one of those scooters. Yeah, I had indicated that not only the front windshield was badly damaged, but also in the back, and that could have been from that impact, meaning that individual who was struck near or at the intersection of Manchester and Pershing during this pursuit in the Playa Del Rey area likely went up and over the vehicle. Again, the condition of that individual unknown at this time. That occurred during the pursuit. Yes, now a hit and run felony suspect in addition to all of the other laws that he's breaking on the road. He's going to try it again. He's got a wide open area here. Let's see. This is number 3. Let's see if it's third time's the charm here. He's pulling up on the side here. Bam! Yes, and he spins him out. Okay, now let's see. This is a very dangerous situation. Now he just rammed the vehicle. Very dangerous situation. And look at this. He's backing up, and he's continuing on. They had him. Guns were pulled out. Bad damage to the front and back end of that vehicle now. And he's going to continue on his way. Wow. Third pit. I've never seen multiple pits like this and the vehicle to continue on. No, I believe I've seen 2 one other time, and this is 3 now that we've seen. 3 pit maneuvers, successful in that they spun him out, but unsuccessful in that the vehicle wasn't damaged enough or blocked in that they can continue on. Here it goes. Now they're going to try on the other side. Bam. There he goes against traffic on the other side. Wow, this guy is just relentless, and he is going to continue to go. Block him in. No. Wow, now he's heading back eastbound. A crazy dangerous pursuit here in Southern California, just to the north of LAX. Yeah, that's exactly what I've been indicating throughout the pursuit. Bad damage to the front where he possibly struck that individual, either a pedestrian, we're hearing possibly on a scooter, and then the back end was damaged as well, as that individual may have went up and over. We've covered a lot of these situations where pedestrians have been struck, and this does look like a vehicle section of Pershing in Manchester, in Playa Del Rey, at some point during the pursuit after it had started in Culver City. Culver City, the lead agency, LAPD on it. LAPD, they were the ones attempting those pit maneuvers, all 4 of them, successfully spinning them out, but not bringing the pursuit to an end. Again, northbound on Lincoln here, heading towards the campus of LMU. This is where you make your way down that hill towards the campus of LMU. It looks like possibly the back left wheel may be disabled in some way. We'll push in. Yeah, you may be right there. It looks like it is gone. Now that may have happened because it was compromised already because of that strike, that individual who was struck, and with the force of those pit maneuvers, that could have easily jarred it. We didn't see any gunfire. Those officers were raising their weapons. They rammed, this suspect rammed one of the vehicles. I mean, that's a deadly force right there. So this guy is very dangerous. They're tracking him now down into Silicon Beach, that area here, this area that's very popular to Southern California by the LMU campus on Lincoln, northbound on Lincoln here. A busy intersection. He doesn't have the light. Let's see if he makes a left turn. This is the area very close to where that individual was struck. So he's staying in that same area. This does happen a lot when you're familiar with a neighborhood. That's exactly right. So we'll see if that's the case. But at the same time, we were hearing that he wanted to go to LAX to try to evade the police there because of all the traffic. He had an opportunity, at least one from our vantage point. He chose not to. So now he's back essentially doing a circle from where he was before. A pursuit. Go ahead, brother. I had just indicated that, yeah, when he was coming down Sepulveda, that his visibility, not only the front, but now the back. Well, I guess the back now is busted open so we can see out the back. But that was a hard impact if indeed that wind chill damage was the result of that individual being struck close to this location. We're on Jefferson now, heading eastbound on Jefferson. That would take this individual, this assault with a deadly weapon suspect, and that's how this pursuit started in the Culver City city limits, back into Culver City. Units have backed off a bit, it looks like. Let's widen out. There's a few there, but they're not as close as they were earlier. And I see a wide open Jefferson here, so there may be another opportunity, a 5th opportunity to try to spin this suspect out. They're tracking him on the ground and in the air. Went through the red light there, and again, technically these officers can write up these suspects for every single vehicular violation. Obviously, a suspect, a hit-and-run suspect now, if those reports are confirmed about that individual being struck. The way the vehicle looks, it looks very much like a car, and I've covered a lot of auto versus ped incidents, and it looks like a vehicle that did strike an individual with that hard front windshield damage and even some damage in the back. We believe that the pit maneuver itself, one of the pit maneuvers, one of the more recent ones of the four, actually probably compromised that back windshield so that it just came out altogether. Through the intersection, has a green light, heading eastbound on Jefferson, back towards Culver City, the Fox Hills area, back towards the 405 freeway. As far as we know, it does not appear that this pursuit has been on any of the freeways yet. If it were to enter the 405 freeway, the northbound, I could see up ahead is just jammed. Look again, Marla, Vanessa, you can see that back left wheel. Definitely compromised, and likely by one of those hard hits by the LAPD. Again, a speed of 35 miles an hour or less, they can try one of those pit maneuvers. You can see the back windshield gone, the front windshield damage as well. The tinted windows. Looks like the driver, the suspect, has that front window rolled down as well, possibly to help with visibility. Exactly. That may definitely be the reason for that. From our vantage points of watching this, although the windows are tinted, we're not hearing of any other suspects inside the vehicle, just the driver itself. A badly damaged older model maroon Honda here being pursued, heading towards Fox Hills and Culver City, eastbound on Jefferson, now approaching the 405 freeway. You can see the back end damage, the bumper damage, that left wobbly wheel. Off and on. The majority of them he slows. There's been a couple that he's ripped through. It looks like he's starting to essentially take on that slower posture as he did when we first started covering this pursuit. Looks like he's going up possibly the 90 freeway. If we could pedal right just a little bit. Just past Slauson, and it looks like he can get on the 90 freeway eastbound here. This is the shortest freeway in all of Southern California, starting in the Fox Hills area, ending in Marina Del Rey. It essentially is the 105 that never became the 105 freeway here. So this freeway will come to an end unless he decides to get on the 405 freeway here, and it looks like that's what he's done here. This is that convoluted ramp where the 90 meets the 405. He is now on the 405 freeway from that 90 connector and now heading southbound on the 405 freeway. Just as I had mentioned, that northbound side, if you got on that's the busy side from the top to the bottom of your monitor there. The southbound side, much lighter, heading out of Fox Hills towards Inglewood and into the LAX area. So now a different ball game. Oh, the vehicle. That's right. He could be compromised in terms of his speed because of that damage that has been sustained to the vehicle as a result of those 4 pit maneuvers. Obviously, the visibility diminished with that front windshield completely out. So now heading south on the...
We can see at least 4 of LAPD officers' vehicles trailing
southbound
him.
Side of the 405, approaching Inglewood Avenue.
Also unconfirmed that we are hearing that he is an Army veteran and could be suffering a PTSD episode.
Yeah, that's a tough situation, and we've covered a lot of incidents, and not only pursuits but other incidents as well, with vets coming back and having those types of issues and turning into a situation with law enforcement. So
this has already become a dangerous pursuit already. Obviously, we haven't seen anything for ourselves from the chopper right now, but we have heard that he hit someone, a pedestrian in Playa Del Rey. So obviously a dangerous situation on top of, unfortunately, if it is confirmed, unfortunate situation here with reports of his mental illness. We're hearing also LAPD requesting CHP take over now. So California Highway Patrol may be taking over, and maybe that's why police cruisers are now backing up and giving some distance to that pursuit, to that suspect.
Which makes sense given his location on the 405.
Yeah, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, that the CHP was going to probably take over here once he did enter the freeway. And if he exits the freeway, say in Hermosa Beach, down towards Redondo into Torrance, he's going to be making his way into that area. Then the Torrance Police Department would pick up as well. Sometimes during pursuits, you see those lead agencies track him all the way, he or she in these pursuits, well across city boundaries into other communities as well. We had one down in the South Bay recently where the pursuit was initiated in Redondo Beach, and it went well outside the city, but it was the Redondo Beach Police Department that actually brought that pursuit to an end. You can see there that vehicles are pulling off to the right, and this is a good time to remind everybody, if you encounter something like this down the freeway, all of a sudden in your rear view mirror, you see a bunch of officers, lights and sirens, tracking somebody, never ever try to be a hero. Pull over to the right, give these officers plenty of space. You just don't know what you're dealing with. And these officers, the CHP, the LAPD, they all are aware of that information that we're passing on to the public that we're hearing about, possibly the mental state of this driver. All of that comes into play in how they will handle it. And every situation is different. You just don't know with the condition of this individual being pursued for an assault with a deadly weapon, a serious crime, having struck and already possibly badly injuring somebody on a scooter or perhaps on foot at Pershing in Manchester, in Playa Del Rey after this pursuit started. You just don't know what you're going to deal with. And this guy has been running, rampant, especially those pit maneuvers, being able to evade officers.
And now in the Torrance area?
Almost to Torrance now on the southbound side of the 405 here, coming down towards the 110. We'll check the off-ramps here. Coming up on Crenshaw, which would make it Torrance, and then the Harbor Gateway area. If he continued south on the 405, he could make his way onto the 110, either north or southbound side on the 110 Harbor Freeway, past the Goodyear plant if he decided to stay on the south 405. I see wide open traffic. Definitely lighter than a typical
Right. I was going to say that
afternoon.
At least the silver lining here is that it is a holiday week, so not as much traffic out there, not as many possibilities for this suspect to then injure someone else.
That's right. But unfortunately, one individual already, and you think of the kids who are out of school, so they could be, vulnerable in that they're out rolling around on their bikes, their skateboards. We don't have any information on the individual on the scooter. We're hearing it was a scooter, possibly a foot pedestrian that was struck.
Rick, just to let you know, we're showing the
badly.
pit maneuvers here. This was the first one. This happened 11:42 precisely, so that was just about 30 minutes ago. That was pit maneuver number 1. Here is pit maneuver number 2. And there are 2 more, in fact, to show you. The suspect just will not give up.
And you got a glimpse as well there of his front windshield, where we're assuming the damage from that person he hit in Playa Del Rey. And then this was the 3rd pit maneuver where police officers then got out of their cruisers and had their guns drawn, but he sped off once again.
And also, Rick, per Culver City Police, the registration on this car is current and also has some parking violations tied to it, to this 2002 Honda 4-door.
And it does seem like we're learning more about the suspect as we're hearing unconfirmed reports that possibly family members are contacting law enforcement to let them know that they know this individual and what he possibly is suffering from coming back from a war-torn area after serving our country. All of that has not been confirmed yet. All we know is that this is a very badly damaged older model Honda being pursued by the Los Angeles Police Department, by Culver City Police Department, the agency that initiated the pursuit, and soon, if not already, by the California Highway Patrol on the South 405, now approaching, still in Torrance now, approaching the 110 freeway, and then it will enter that Harbor Gateway area, that narrow stretch of the city of Los Angeles that comes out of South LA and makes its way all the way down into the San Pedro area. Let's see what he does here. He could make his way north or south on the 110 freeway, but it looks like he's staying off of that transition road, and he's going to stay the course southbound on the 405, which would take him down towards the Carson and Wilmington areas, and then down towards Long Beach. Next major freeway would be the 710 freeway. Off to his left on the north side of the 405, you have the Goodyear blimp plant. Off to the right, you have the Porsche Experience location there, and there, coming into frame, an LAPD helicopter still circling, watching this all from overhead.
And you see other vehicles here entering the 405, just making their way, and they have no idea what's underway.
That's right. And again, as I had just mentioned a short time ago, another reminder, if you do ever encounter, there's a CHP unit getting on a ramp there. There we go. And it looks like there's another unit. So CHP has definitely joined the party here on the southbound side of the 405 freeway here. But a bit more traffic up ahead, but still very light. So the volume is incredibly light coming southbound away from the 110 Harbor Freeway down towards Wilmington and the 710 as we widen out. There is that Porsche Experience there. You see the vehicles down below. Off on the left side of your monitor is the blimp up, the Goodyear blimp facility, just to familiarize you all with the location we're traveling. South on the 405 freeway, down towards Wilmington now, and the 710 freeway. So this pursuit, Vanessa and Marla, has been going on a better part of an hour, perhaps more. So you start to think about how much gasoline this vehicle had when the pursuit was started. If it had a full tank, it's good to go for a while. If it was getting a bit low, then fuel could become an issue. The damage to the car, definitely an issue. We've seen at least the back left wheel wobbling a bit. That could be compromised in such a way that eventually it could disable the vehicle altogether. Okay, you can see this HP unit getting a little closer here. The SUV tracking in one of the middle lanes here on the southbound side of the 405, approaching the Avalon Boulevard off-ramp, putting it in Carson. Next to community would be Wilmington, and then towards Long Beach and the 710 freeway.
And we do want to, and for those of you just joining us, this is a suspect being pursued initially by Culver City Police. LAPD then joined the pursuit, and now CHP is involved. The 405 south through Carson, just past the Porsche Experience and where the Goodyear blimp is stationed, making its way south on the 405. Along the way during this pursuit, again, it started in Culver City, but made its way through Playa Del Rey, where this suspect reportedly hit a pedestrian who was on a scooter. And now we're understanding that the initial want, Rick, this is interesting. I know that we were saying that there were reports that this person was wanted for assault with a deadly weapon. The initial want may have been just failure to yield.
Failure to yield. And that's how a lot of them start. That's exactly right. And they did track the license plate, as you guys indicated, and found the vehicle's registration is current. A couple of outstanding parking violations, and that's it. But is the driver, is this suspect actually connected to this vehicle? That we don't know at this time. It may not be registered in that suspect's name. So that information we'll still try to ascertain. Now, units have pulled back a little bit, but they're slowing traffic as they have down this entire stretch of the 405. 2 CHP units they're tracking. Let's wind out and pan the camera just to the left a little bit, and I'll show you how units trailing here are holding the traffic back just to help out with officers to give them a little bit more space. There's a CHP motor officer meandering around. We'll go back to the pursuit here. This will give officers a little more leverage, perhaps a little cushion of space, keeping people out of harm's way. Maybe if there's a chance, as you can see, now we have a wide open southbound 405 freeway of yet another pit maneuver. Just a couple vehicles ahead, the north and southbound sides, obviously separated by that K-wall, that concrete barrier. The northbound side is the side coming towards us here, southbound side going away. There's the Wilmington Avenue off-ramp, approaching the 710 freeway in the community of Wilmington, having just left Carson, heading now down towards Long Beach. So
and it certainly looks like that cruiser is getting
again.
Closer to the suspect as well. They were a bit further back just a few minutes ago.
And that lead vehicle there is communicating with the captains, his upper brass, to see how they want to handle this. They are getting as much information on the suspect as possible. They know what happened already along this pursuit that's lasted over an hour, that unconfirmed reports that an individual near the or at the intersection of Manchester and Pershing in the Playa Del Rey area was struck. And by the looks of the vehicle, if that damage to the front windshield and the back was caused by that impact, that individual is likely badly injured. Again, we're still trying to get information on that. Pursuit starting in Culver City. That incident involving the person who was struck occurred in Playa Del Rey. This pursuit made its way primarily on surface streets, Culver City, Playa Del Rey, Inglewood, towards the Westchester area, north of LAX. And then he decided finally to hop on the South 405, passing LAX, going through the beach cities, down towards the 110 freeway. Carson, Wilmington, now approaching the 710 freeway on the South 405, approaching Long Beach and Long Beach Airport. A wide open freeway, partially because those units behind what you're seeing here have been able to hold traffic, to slow traffic, but now we're getting into a little busier area, and this is where we're going to see a lot of big rig traffic. That north and southbound 710 always loaded with tractor trailers bringing goods to and from the Long Beach and LA harbors. And there you go, on cue, into frame. You can see some of those big rigs there.
And we've really seen how brazen this suspect is. Just at one point, one of those pit maneuvers, the officers got out of their vehicles and were just with their guns drawn, and that suspect just sped off once again with guns in his face. And then clearly hit, unfortunately, a pedestrian and possibly severely injured that person. Hopefully not, but we can see just how brazen he is and how unlikely it is that he's going to stop anytime soon.
And if this individual is dealing with mental illness, and these officers know that, they're going to have to handle this in such a way. First and foremost, they don't want any innocent bystanders to be injured or tragically killed, which we have seen here in Southern California. That is their first goal. Their second goal is to bring this pursuit to an end without any officers or the suspect being injured, taking we believe it's a male being pursued here, into custody. On the southbound side of the 405, having just crossed over the LA River, passing the 710, he's staying the course on the South 405, now into the community of Long Beach, approaching Long Beach Boulevard. Very slow speed. He's possibly down to that 35-mile-an-hour threshold. They have plenty of cushion up ahead. You can see the nearest vehicle to the south of this pursuit, maybe a quarter of a mile away, not quite that. So now they do have those options to try to spin him out here on the southbound side of the 405 freeway here.
And any decision not to would just be based entirely on the safety of all the other drivers on the 405, I would imagine.
That's exactly right. They do not want anybody else being injured. They had those opportunities where they had wide open surface streets, and they successfully did those multiple pit maneuvers, but it wasn't successful in terminating the pursuit. Unfortunately, they just, these vehicles, when they spin out, you just don't know which way they're going to be facing, and if there's another officer blocking the suspect's vehicle in, and that just wasn't the case here. And this suspect was able to get away from all four of those pit maneuvers, something I've never seen in all the pursuits that I've covered from up here in Skyfox. Southbound side on the 405, approaching Cherry Avenue, down towards Long Beach Airport in Long Beach. This pursuit continues well over an hour, now going on about an hour and 15 minutes, we believe, having first started in Culver City.
And the initial want, again, failure to yield. It seems almost far-fetched to think that someone would run out of gas, but you bring up a good point, Rick, the fact that it has been going on for more than an hour at this point. If this started with a quarter of a tank, hey, he doesn't have all that long to go.
We've seen it happen in the past, that the suspect's vehicle just all of a sudden comes to a slow stop, and we hear afterwards that they just ran out of gas. If you start off with a low tank level, then this pursuit won't go that long, but if he has a full tank, it's going to go for several hours in some cases, and we've seen that as well. And what we're seeing up here is the southbound side of the 405, traffic being held back a bit, but not the ramps. The on and off ramps here are still open, so vehicular traffic can still enter the South 405, but still very light conditions as this pursuit makes its way southbound, down now towards Long Beach Airport. Again, having started in Culver City, mostly on surface streets, through the Playa Del Rey area, Inglewood, over towards Westchester, north of LAX, and then finally the suspect in this older model maroon Honda decided to get on that 90-405 interchange, and he made his way south on the 405 freeway, passing LAX, passing the 105 freeway through the beach cities, the South Bay curb. You saw an individual up on the overpass there filming this as this pursuit went southbound underneath that overpass, and we'll be coming up now on Lakewood Boulevard.
All right, we want to bring in Susan Hirasuna into our coverage here. You are in Playa Del Rey, as far as we understand, Susan. This is right near where the intersection where the pedestrian on a scooter was hit. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so the traffic collision accident team is still out here. We see two law enforcement agencies, Culver City Police and LAPD. They're here. I'm sort of overhearing some of the residents talk about how they noticed when the pursuit started and how wild it was. And one resident was saying that it was sort of a disappointment that they weren't able to stop that car before the collision happened here. So I'm at Saran and Manchester, and as I say, the TC accident investigative team is still here. They'll map out the situation and try to put together all the information of what occurred before that person was hit on the scooter. I don't see the scooter. I don't see any other evidence that somebody was injured, but
do we know the condition?
Still here. So
do we know the condition of the pedestrian?
No, I don't know anything about the person on the scooter. Apparently the scooter is still here, which would make sense as part of the accident scene. I'm going to walk across the street, see if I can get a little bit more information and a better perspective. But it is kind of interesting how the residents are kind of standing by.
And what you've heard from them, you don't know age or gender of that person who was struck.
No, not as yet. And I just arrived on scene, so I'm a little closer now to perhaps some people from Culver City PD who might be able to give me some explanation. I see the scooter now, and it looks it's hard to tell, but it does look a little bit crumpled. And of course, we've all been noting.
Are there law
the
enforcement out there,
windshield.
Susan? Sorry to interrupt, but are there law enforcement out there?
Yes, two different agencies, as I mentioned before, Culver City PD and LAPD are here.
All right, Susan, thank you. I'm sure you just got to the scene, so you're going to gather some information for us, so we'll get back to you in a moment, but we want to head back up to Rick Dickert in Skyfox. Where are you now, Rick?
We're on the 405 freeway southbound, still in Long Beach, just having passed the Long Beach Airport, passing Lakewood Boulevard, now heading a bit farther south down towards the campus of Cal State Long Beach. The next freeway, 605 north, would be an option for this suspect, but light volume all the way to the south. I can see down towards Orange County. Yes, if this pursuit makes its way a couple miles farther south, we're going to be talking about it having crossed through two different counties, initially just starting out in a couple of communities doing circles, but once this pursuit entered the 405, it was on, and southbound side of the 405, the entire stretch from the Fox Hills area down to this point in Long Beach, heading towards Los Alamitos, then into Seal Beach, unless the suspect decides to make that transition onto the 605. We'll see what happens there. A badly damaged vehicle, but it looks like he's able to pick up a little bit of speed, probably going about 55 miles an hour now. You can see he's passing some other traffic, but that traffic is slowing because it sees what's coming up from behind them. And the CHP has done a really great job at holding a majority of that traffic. There's 3 units there. LAPD helicopter still circling. 3 different agencies that we understand, Culver City Police Department being the lead, then the LAPD, now the California Highway Patrol involved in this pursuit. Again, still trying to get information. Susan's on the scene to see exactly how badly damaged that individual on the scooter was injured as a result of this pursuit being struck. And again, they want to end this in a safe way so that nobody else is injured.
And Susan at the scene in Playa Del Rey where that pedestrian was hit on the scooter, and she was saying how that there are residents who are out there and they're expressing their frustration that this hasn't been put to an end already.
And we've seen it try to be put to an end 4 separate times with 4 failed pit maneuvers. And Rick, I thought it was very poignant what you said. You've never seen 4 failed pit maneuvers before in all the pursuits you've covered.
I have not. I've seen a couple, 2, and I believe that's only been once. So
and you're seeing it there on your screen
definitely
now.
You. Yeah, it was the luck of the draw in those situations. When you spin out a vehicle, you never know, depending upon the speed and exactly where that suspect's vehicle was struck, how it's going to end up facing, how other officers are positioned, and it just went the way of the suspect, that he was able to do 180s, to pull away, to get away each and every time, despite the pit maneuvers themselves being successful, and that he was spun out, disabled briefly, but not enough that he wasn't able to continue on his way. And he is on his way southbound on the 405, now approaching the 605 freeway.
So is this, pardon me, is this in the Long Beach area still?
Still in Long Beach, but coming up towards Los Alamitos. He's going to be entering the community of Los Alamitos any moment now. Once you get with a merge with the 605, and it's coming up right now. If he continues south, and he's not making the transition. There's the flyway transition from the southbound side of the 405 to the north 605. He's continuing southbound. Now will enter Orange County, Seal Beach, then down towards Huntington Beach if he chooses to stay on the southbound side of the 405 freeway here.
So we saw the 4 separate pit maneuvers just now. We showed the video from that, and it is truly incredible that he wasn't stopped at any one of those efforts. And now going at, a normal rate of speed, it seems like. How fast would you guess he's going, Rick?
Right now, it looks like he's going pretty much the speed limit, maybe even a little below. You can see the other traffic are merging in, and they're likely going 65, 70 miles an hour. He's going a little bit below that. He's picked up a little bit of speed here, perhaps, 50, 55 miles an hour, maybe 60. He's continuing southbound. That was the traffic overflow from the 605 freeway. That's what we saw a handful of vehicles get on the freeway. But as you can see, the CHP officers are doing their best to hold as much traffic back as possible.
And the way that he's driving right now is really not endangering anyone out on the roadways. Of course, that is a possibility. As we saw, he hit a pedestrian, so they want to get him off the roadways as soon as possible. However, right now, the way that he's been driving in the last, 45 minutes or so, apart from the pit maneuvers and apart from hitting that person, that pedestrian, we really have seen him go at a slow rate of speed, possibly because the car is so damaged.
And simply to think that this all may have started just from a simple failure to yield.
That's right. But, when those failures to yield occur, a lot of times the people don't yield for a reason. There may be a situation, perhaps this individual we're hearing possibly suffering from some sort of mental illness. That could factor in as to why he did not pull over when officers lit him up in Culver City and continued on his way. A lot more CHP officers getting into the mix now that we're entering Orange County. And what they're doing is they're really holding back traffic. Now, look at them. We got, how many do you count? 5 there now. 5 SUVs, CHP SUVs, trailing, holding traffic on the southbound side of the 405 back. We are now in Seal Beach, approaching the merge with the 22 freeway coming out of Los Alamitos. He does have an option to get on the 22 freeway in an eastbound direction, heading towards Garden Grove. We'll see if that happens. But he's stayed the course thus far, just staying on the 405. He's had a lot of options. He's had the 105 freeway, then the 110 freeway, the 710, now just passing the 605, now approaching the 20.
CHP, when you say that they could let it run its course, meaning that they could stop pursuing it, yet still have a tracker above in the sky.
We've seen that before. Spike strips are possibilities. They could try to, slow traffic enough that they have that wide open cushion. But again, this is a wide stretch of the 405 freeway there with a carpool, and you have multiple lanes, and tossing a spike strip across all lanes, and the suspect not seeing that strip and actually riding over it, that's a bit of a crapshoot, but it has worked in the past, and that is an opportunity. And an opportunity for a pit maneuver still is there once there is enough of that cushion so that nobody else would be badly injured in the event that it went awry and other vehicles were close by. And we're not seeing that right now. And you can see the distance between that suspect and the lead CHP unit. It's a good cushion there. So they are tracking it on the ground. Is there a police ship up right now, Elijah? I'm talking to the pilot to see if we still have a police ship up right now. Okay, now it's a CHP helicopter that has joined in. CHP helicopter tracking this as well. We saw an LAPD helicopter for a while, and then I believe he pulled off. So now a CHP helicopter. So they are tracking it in the air, CHP, and they will continue to do so. And they can back off if they choose to, but they want to end this. They want to bring this individual into custody without anybody else being injured.
And we really haven't seen this be a high-speed chase either. It's been pretty moderate. He's usually below the speed limit. Cars are usually passing by him. And we're hearing that Susan Hiroshima is actually there on the scene of where that pedestrian was struck in Playa Del Rey. Hopefully we can get her up and go to her. There she is. Hi, Susan. What can you tell us so far, what you've learned in the last few minutes that you've been on the scene?
Okay, so I heard a rather dramatic story, actually, about what happened here at the corner of Saran and Manchester. And you see there that they're just now moving the scooter out of the street. The scooter is almost in 2 pieces. It's not one of those Bird or Lime scooters. It's, in fact, a personal scooter that is motorized. And right now we are told a couple of just vague facts about the victim. We're told that it is a man in his 20s. He is at a local hospital, most likely Ronald Reagan in Westwood. We're also told that one of the witnesses told the LAPD that she noticed what happened because she heard the automobile revving that was being chased. She actually caught sight of the victim holding on to the car before he finally was unable to hold on any longer. And then the pursued car just kept on going, which meant that he was most likely run over by that pursued car. So you see there now the LAPD is taking possession of that scooter because their investigation is wrapping up. That's probably some good news because they told me that they weren't going to wrap the investigation until they got wind of what the condition of the victim was at the hospital, because obviously this investigation would change if the victim had died. So right now it looks like this area at Manchester and Saran will be clearing up shortly, but
So, Susan, you
just
can...
an interesting little addition, a chapter to this police pursuit, and I'll send it back to you guys. Sorry, I don't have my IP, so I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then...
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
You can hear me now. Okay, so I just wanted you to confirm. So LAFD had put out a tweet that they responded to this scene. They said that this may be related to the pursuit, but you can confirm that, in fact, this maroon Honda that is being pursued was, in fact, the vehicle that hit the pedestrian there in Playa Del Rey.
That is the presumption that brought us here at this corner to begin with. Meantime, I did talk to a couple of residents who live nearby. They did not witness the actual traffic collision, the accident itself, but they had seen the car starting out around Petco, which is a little farther north of where I'm standing right now, and watched as police pursued and tried to pit the car to stop. As you know, that car was pitted a couple of times and kept on going. So, yeah, the presumption is that it is indeed the man behind the wheel of that pursued car.
All right, Susan, thank you. She is live in Playa Del Rey, where that person was struck, that pedestrian who was on a scooter, we hear, was struck by the suspect, and you're watching the pit maneuvers that were performed, the four failed pit maneuvers in order to stop this suspect. And it really is incredible that he was able to keep going, especially after you see one of these pit maneuvers where officers even get out of their cruisers and just have their guns drawn right at him. And you can see it right here. They're about to get out. So this was earlier, probably about 45 minutes to an hour ago. The good news here, what we're hearing now from Susan and from LAFD, is that that person who was struck, non-life-threatening injuries is what we're hearing now, because at least what we assumed from the damage of the windshield, and you could see it right there on your screen, how badly that windshield, that front windshield was damaged. We assumed that that person was severely injured, but luckily they're saying that it's non-life-threatening injuries.
Right, and we can tell you the pedestrian is a man in his 20s, according to Susan, new information that she's bringing us, and that he was transported to a hospital in Westwood, which would likely be Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center. All right, Rick, we are back with you. We have the pursuit suspect there, and looks like you're in Costa Mesa now.
45 miles down the 405 to Costa Mesa from Culver City. This pursuit to southbound side of the 405, approaching the South Coast Plaza down towards the 55. That's really good news from Susan. Again, we could have a badly injured young man, but in no way would they break down a scene like that if they thought, even if they suspected it could turn into a fatality. They would keep that investigation going. And I'm getting a lot of tweets. I can't see the scooter myself, but I'm aware of these scooters. The Swagtron electric scooter, that's the type of scooter that young man was on when he was struck near the intersection of Manchester.
Yeah, surprisingly, Susan said that it was more of a personal scooter. It was not a bird or a lime.
This is one you can, pick up at your local Walmart. Southbound side of the 405, we've seen no other incident since, or heard of any serious incidents since that one that occurred during the start of this pursuit, shortly after it was initiated. And this pursuit's been going on now likely an hour and a half, or if not longer. Again, 45 plus miles now southbound on the 405. CHP units trailing. 55 freeway coming up. John Wayne Airport coming up. That will be on the right side of the 405 as we make our way into Orange County. It looks like the interchange of the 55, he's going to avoid that as well and just continue on his way south. This would take him down into Irvine, down towards the Y in El Toro, where the 5 and the 405 meet. That's where he could continue south on the 5 and make his way all the way through South Orange County, down through Mission Viejo, San Clemente, and possibly points south of that location. He is staying on that southbound side of the 405. Here is the interchange with the 55. So yet another freeway. He had the opportunity to change course, and he's chosen not to.
He's dedicated to the 405. And
he certainly is.
As you say, though, now as he enters Irvine and John Wayne Airport nearby there, that he has clocked 45 miles heading south on the 405 since leaving right near LAX, where he got on in Culver City. But again, he's gone much farther than that because he was on surface streets for at least 30 minutes prior.
So gas could be an issue here, too, fuel.
That's exactly right. Those miles, in addition to the now probably closer to 50 miles that this pursuit has made its way just down the 405. We're transitioning now through the airspace at John Wayne Airport, crossing over to avoid all the commercial air traffic. And this suspect is continuing southbound in the middle lane. He's been staying in the middle lane for miles now, keeping a moderate speed at or below the speed limit and not driving recklessly. The only time we visually saw him driving really erratically and recklessly was initially after those pit maneuvers. That is when that driver really was getting agitated. We'll push into the vehicle here. We can see definitely a male driver there. You can see that left back wheel is compromised. The back windshield is completely out. The front glass severely damaged by that scooter. That incident that occurred just after the pursuit was initiated. And it was initiated by the Culver City Police Department, if you're just joining us, just because of a simple failure to yield. They lit this individual up for some incident, some traffic-related violation. He chose not to pull over, and the pursuit was on. And it's on here in Orange County.
And now there are unconfirmed reports that the suspect's wife is on the phone with dispatch.
Okay, and all of that helpful, very helpful to law enforcement, because they know in terms of conducting a pit maneuver. That's not to say they can't try one when he is going 50 or 55 miles an hour, given the conditions, given a wide open freeway, no other foot or vehicular traffic around, and the only people that would be endangered, in addition to the suspect, would be the officer conducting that pit maneuver. Again, the pursuit intervention technique that we've seen play out so many times in these high speed and slow speed and moderate speed pursuits like this one from up here in Skyfox. But never before, at least I've never seen 4 separate pit maneuvers attempted, and the suspect was still able to evade police. 5 freeway southbound past Dana Point now into San Clemente. I can see San Clemente Pier up ahead. San Onofre, Trestles, and up towards the San Onofre Power Plant and Camp Pendleton.
And I did check it out here. That Oceanside is still
another spike strip. Another spike strip right there. There's another spike strip. Let's tilt down and show really quickly. There's the officer there. And again, see the size of the strip, and they position themselves. They throw it out, but there just isn't enough to cover that whole freeway.
Right.
And it wasn't successful. He saw the first time that was attempted. You may have seen that time as well. Mm-hmm. So 2 spike strips, and they'll continue to try, because you never know. If he's off now to the right, perhaps they'll get an officer on the right. If they could get officers on both sides of the freeway here, on the left and right side, and simultaneously throw a couple across and not really give him much room to evade both of them, then looks like he's putting on his brakes at this point. Looks like from our vantage point, we saw a little brake light action, so we'll see what happens. It could be the sun reflecting off. Southbound side of the 5, again, past Dana Point, through Capistrano Beach, into San Clemente now. Quite the real estate this pursuit has covered. Now heading down towards San Diego County.
Right.
Camp Pendleton, San Onofre nuclear power plant.
And he's still about 22 miles away from Oceanside. Just, again, I had asked that question, and I was just curious, just because it does get down to just 3 lanes. There's no on-ramp, so it would be an easier option to have a successful spike strip. And I understand that they will absolutely continue to try to bring this to an end, as this has now been going on for 2 hours. In fact, the call to LAFD for the pedestrian who was struck during this pursuit in Playa Del Rey, that was officially called in at 11:14 this morning, and it is 1:12 right now as you're watching an extended version of the Fox 11 News at noon. We went on with this pursuit just after 11:30 this morning, and we have stuck with it this entire time. It started in Culver City, made its way through Inglewood, Playa Del Rey, Playa Vista, back to Culver City to get on the 405 South to the southbound 5 transition, and that is where the suspect is now through the San Clemente area, deep into Orange County.
And this was after 4 pit maneuvers failed. Now we've seen 2 separate times that they've tried to throw down the spikes. That has failed as well, but they have plenty of real estate ahead of them to then continue to keep attempting to throw down those spikes and hopefully stop this suspect, again, over 2 hours now. And we do want to update you on that person who was struck. So it is a man in his 20s. It was in Playa Del Rey area. He was taken to the hospital, and we are hearing from LAFD that it was non-life-threatening injuries. And given the damage that we saw from the scooter, given the damage of that windshield, it is really incredible that that is the case. That is the result. You can see it there on your screen, a picture of that scooter. So that was the scooter the man was driving. And luckily, it's non-life-threatening injuries is what we're hearing. That's the report from LAFD.
Right, and as we show you that scooter, it's not a bird or a lime. That's the first thing that you think of these days when you hear a scooter, but we understand it was a personal scooter of this man in his 20s that Vanessa just mentioned. And again, he reportedly is suffering from just non-life-threatening injuries, so by all accounts, he will be okay. As for the suspect of this Honda Civic, this four-door older model Honda Civic here, who's been leading officers on a pursuit for 2 hours now. You know, his future looks like it's going to be in custody after Rick. It's countless laws that he's broken at this point.
Oh yeah, and the felony hit and run, one of the most significant. Of course, initially the failure to yield, all the traffic violations could be totaled up as well. But since this vehicle, this male suspect, got on the freeway in the Culver City, Fox Hills area, 70 miles now from where we are now, it's been much like what you're seeing. Driving safe speeds in the middle lanes, 55, 60 miles an hour. The CHP's done a really good job at keeping traffic well away from the suspect, keeping everybody else safe. And again, now that this pursuit has been going on for the better part of 2 hours, that you do have to start considering more about how much gas, how much fuel this vehicle had when this pursuit started on surface streets in Culver City as a failure to yield, and then meandered in the neighborhood, Playa Del Rey, where the incident occurred with the scooter. And again, that young man is going to have a harrowing story to tell, and we hope the best for him. But it does sound good so far. And then through the Fox Hills area, up through Inglewood, and then finally getting on the 405 South, down into Orange County and connecting with the 5, and now we're heading down towards San Diego County.
Sure, and those 4 failed pit maneuvers. We've seen 2 attempts at spike strips there on the 5 southbound there, with CHP still trailing behind as he's making his way through San Clemente. Has he passed the pier, Rick?
The San Clemente Pier, yes, he has just passed the pier. We're coming up down towards the very popular surf spots, Trestle, San Onofre, by the San Onofre power plant, and that's where he's going to be crossing the county line by Camp Pendleton into San Diego County.
And Rick, we just showed we re-racked the video of the second spike strip attempt there, so we just saw the CHP officer there, and that's exactly what they do. They line up on the side in the median essentially, and they strategize. There we go. As we look at this again. That's just the only way that it goes down, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And as you can tell, that stretch of the freeway is much too wide for one strip to cover across all lanes of traffic. And it did appear, because the suspect did move over to the right, that he saw what was happening up ahead. So he even moved out of the middle lane there, more to the right, to avoid that second spike strip.
Right, I was going to say, the minute they did that first strip of spikes, laid it down, he immediately knew, okay, this is probably going to come again, and so he was aware. So if it happens a third time, I'm sure he'll be well aware and savvy that that's going to happen and get out of the way once again. But really, at this point, that's the only thing that police can do. They're trying to stay back a bit, and really, it seems like they're just trying to wait it out and see if he either gets off the freeway and goes onto side streets so they can try another pit maneuver when it's safe, or they're just waiting for him really to run out of gas. And it seems likely, considering he's been driving for 2 hours now.
That's exactly right. That's a good assessment there. Another officer holding traffic from that on-ramp. They're continuing south, and we're going to make our way now past the San Onofre power plant here, the nuclear power plant, past Trestles and San Onofre, the popular surf spots, into San Diego County. And who knows where this suspect wants to end up. All we know is he doesn't want to end up in jail at this time, and he's trying to do whatever he can to evade police, but he's not being aggressive in doing so. And with that, the officers, the California Highway Patrol officers, are not being aggressive. They're trying to keep the situation calm, keeping him at a safe speed, and making sure that everybody is kept well away from the incident down below.
2 hours ago, though, Rick, of course, it was a different story when he was being very aggressive when he struck the pedestrian on the scooter.
No, that's right. I'm talking about like right now in terms of the last hour or so that he's been on the 405 and then on the 5 freeway. They've taken on a little bit more of a mellow, type of pattern here of not being ultra aggressive like we saw with the LAPD trying to pit the individual on surface streets when he was driving really erratically. Again, the point I'm trying to make is that as the suspects react to the situation, the officers react. First and foremost, they want to keep the public safe. Secondly, they want to make sure that that they bring this to a safe end. And in doing so, they deploy a lot of techniques. Obviously, they want to end it sooner than later. They have options because they've essentially backed all that southbound Interstate 5 traffic off well to the north of this location as the pursuit heads south. That gives an open freeway like we've seen, so that gives the opportunity for the spike strip. There still is an opportunity for a pit maneuver. I think there's plenty of real estate ahead of this vehicle that they could perhaps attempt to do one. Right now, they're just not choosing to, and part of that is because of the speed. They don't like to do them unless they have to. The pursuit intervention technique, unless the speed of the vehicle being pursued is 45 miles an hour or less. So on the freeways, he has not been aggressive. He's been driving at or below the speed limit, primarily in the middle lanes, not radically crossing over lanes, endangering anybody. And that's why the officers are taking on this position, heading southbound. They're keeping enough of a space cushion, watching from above as well. We believe they know a lot more than they did when this pursuit was initiated by the Culver City Police Department as a failure to yield now over 2 hours ago. They know a bit more about the suspect because we're hearing that contact was made between the suspect's wife and officers.
Right, and we should note, so it isn't that there's light traffic in Southern California, because that usually doesn't exist. It's a traffic break that was created by the police officers. So that's why you're seeing so much, freed up roadway ahead of that suspect.
Yeah, let's widen out and we'll tilt the camera down a little bit. We'll show you how it's going and see if that's changed. There it is, San Onofre. And as we tilt the camera down just a little bit, let's see the traffic break that's occurring. And there it is again. And it's not a full-fledged break that we see where they halt traffic, sometimes to remove a stalled vehicle or a couple of cars involved in a wreck. They're just slowing it down. It's still moving at a decent clip, maybe not 65, 70 miles an hour. They're still letting traffic flow southbound. They don't want to inconvenience anybody more than they have to, and that's what they're doing, creating that space cushion. There's a distance between that traffic being slowed, I should say, by the California Highway Patrol and the individual being pursued. And again, the suspect isn't driving erratically at this point. Yes, definitely he was earlier when he struck that young man on a scooter.
Right, and he was also going through intersections as well, blowing through lights, endangering people there. So all of those things will be taken into account once this finally does stop it. But at this point, this is a felony suspect.
Yeah, the most aggressive when he was driving through the Fox Hills area onto La Tierra, and that's where those pit maneuvers were attempted. The driver was agitated, obviously, speeding, driving recklessly. The officers were doing whatever they can to try to bring it to an end because that's how the situation was. Now it's not like that. So now the officers are giving the space cushion. Ever since this suspect got on the 405 freeway up in Culver City, some 75, 80 miles away now, he's been driving at or below the speed limit in the middle lanes. They're giving him plenty of space and just giving this time, hopefully, to end safely. Looking up ahead, I can see the northbound 5 checkpoint, southbound 5 checkpoint. I'm not seeing that up off the helicopter. There's the southbound checkpoint, or the northbound checkpoint, I should say, coming up out of San Diego County towards San Onofre. Traffic really not delayed there. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Officers just threw out a spike strip there as well. Are they crossing all lanes there, or is it just?
It looks like it's just the left.
Just the 2 left lanes.
Yeah.
Just the 2 left lanes, and let's see what happens here. Maybe the officers will try. Well, he's staying in that left lane. Let's see what happens. He sees it.
Oh, he sees it.
Oh no! They threw another one across. They pulled it. What they did was they pulled it. They had it in the far left lanes. Then as he was starting to make his way to the right, because he saw it, and he said, "Oh no, I got you guys." They pulled that spike strip. That vehicle definitely made impact with that spike strip. That third spike strip. It appeared from our vantage point. It did. I mean, or it may have just. I mean, it looked like it hit the vehicle in some capacity because.
Well, he's still going, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, no, there's no question. I mean, but sometimes, sometimes spike strips, may only disable one vehicle, and you see it continue on for a long time, and the vehicles go down to the wheels. So
yeah. One of the pursuits that I was following a couple months ago. They threw down spike strips 4 separate times. The tires were completely blown out, and the driver kept going for another 30
on
minutes.
The rims.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, again, maybe we can re-rack that and see what happened and play that as we.
Well, unfortunately, Rick, when that's happening, as is the case now, we lost the shot. So we do have you back up though, right?
Okay.
So that's why we were unclear of exactly what happened. So from your vantage point, you had a clear look that a spike strip was deployed and the vehicle did make contact.
Yeah, it didn't. What happened if you didn't see it? I don't know what you guys saw or didn't see, but the spike strip was laid out in the left 2 lanes, as we've seen with the previous. That was the third, or the previous 2. That was the third attempt. They laid them out, and there was no traffic. The officer actually walked across the freeway and laid it out in the far left 2 lanes. Then that officer, with another officer, went to the right shoulder area, and as the vehicle, seeing the spike strip in the left 2 lanes, made his way over to the right 2 lanes, and as that was occurring, and he was heading south towards that strip, the officers yanked the strip across the freeway so that it would cover those 2 right lanes, and it appeared that some sort of contact was made. Whether or not the the tires were damaged, that's unclear, but it does appear that it hit the vehicle in some capacity. But as of right now, as it continues on, if there was some sort of impact, the impact wasn't significant enough to any of the tires yet to disable the vehicle, at least from what we're seeing now. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to see the damage being done, and we start to see all of a sudden a wheel that the tire that goes completely out. But we're not seeing that. Continuing southbound, on the southbound side of the 5, now into San Diego County. This is the area that's not developed south of Camp Pendleton as you make your way into northern San Diego County. So we're well south of San Clemente, south of the border of San Diego County and LA County. And the next border, we're talking about the Mexican border with the U.S. Down towards, and there's no way he would get beyond that point with the security and all that's down there, having crossed through that area a number of times on surf trips, as many of you at home may have as well. The next major Oceanside, still to the south of this location. He has a wide open freeway. Unclear how much gas he has at this time.
Quickly, to be clear, he already passed the spike strips. Now that we're looking at the first attempt at the pit maneuver, pardon me, while we get some new information from the booth. So we do have some new information as we look at these pit maneuvers that were failed, 4 of them back in the Culver City, Inglewood area. Let's go to Susan Hirasuno. She's live at the scene in Playa Del Rey. This is where the pursuit suspect hit a pedestrian on a scooter, a man in his 20s. He is said to be in fairly good condition, non-life-threatening injuries anyway. Susan?
And again, we want to mention that this is video from earlier from the failed pit maneuvers. Susan, and now we're live. We're live over the suspect in the car. Susan, you're on the phone?
Yes, and so currently the scene is clear now, so the traffic collision investigators have all left the scene. Culver City Police was here, as well as LAPD. This is the domain of LAPD. So they took the lead investigation. This investigation wrapped up fairly quickly, and we are told that it is in part because they believe that the victim will be okay, non-life-threatening injuries. I did talk to another person who didn't want to go on camera with me, but did explain what he saw after the collision occurred right outside of his apartment window. He told me that he looked outside of his window. He lives on the 2nd floor, and he was able to see that the victim was talking to people, and he was actually walking, and then eventually sat down to wait for the medical aid. But at the time, he was walking, and police told me that as well. So that is very suggestive that the victim will be okay. So a man in his 20s, didn't get very much more information than that. We don't know if he's a local. He was probably, if you looked at the aerial footage, it seems as if he was in the wrong, or he contributed to his own situation because he was riding in the middle of the street as opposed to like a bicycle more towards with traffic, but on the right side of the street, closer to the sidewalk. So he might have learned a very serious lesson from this traffic collision. But as far as any kind of investigation, there's just really no sign that anything happened here. Everybody is gone. Even some of the looky-loos are gone. So we're here. We're just kind of hunting around trying to see whether or not these days, everybody has a doorbell, video doorbell, something like that.
And Susan, we're going to leave you really quick because it looks like the driver is now pulling off to the side. Rick.
Yeah, he's pulling off to the side of the freeway here, southbound side of the 5. Let's see what happens here. It's unclear. Sometimes, again, they just decide to pull over and give up.
Or he could be running out of gas.
That too.
He could be running out of gas. That's a possibility. We haven't seen any, and it's difficult with the sun angle and the shadows, if there was any damage to any of the 4 tires as a result of that spike strip that was pulled across lanes on the southbound side of the 5. We're still well north of Oceanside in this real rural area here of northern San Diego County. Traffic now will be held. All southbound traffic on the 5 freeway. It will be a full break, and as you can see, officers are setting up here. And again, this doesn't mean this situation is over. It still could be perceived as a very dangerous situation. It's unclear if this suspect is armed at this point. They do have information on him, at least that's what we're hearing from the suspect's wife. Guns drawn, southbound side of the 5 freeway here, well north of Oceanside. This is a good probably 5 to 7 miles north of Oceanside Harbor. And as you can see, weapons drawn, non-lethal as well as lethal. And as we go back to the vehicle, let's see what's happening here. If he's deciding to give up, or he may just stay inside. We've seen situations like this where then it turns into a barricade situation, barricaded inside the vehicle, and some of these can last for hours. Southbound side of the 5, I'll tell you that though, traffic is stopped here. I'm trying to get a good ramp for you here of where this is occurring, but we're well into San Diego County now, north of Oceanside.
We can see him moving just a little bit inside, but other than that, really no activity or clues that he is willing to get out of the vehicle.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He's just staying inside the vehicle. Now, officers are instructing him, if they haven't already, will instruct him to exit the vehicle, hands up, first showing his hands and arms outside of the driver's side door, but we just haven't seen that yet. And by now, I'm sure he's been given those very strict instructions.
Yeah,
so,
we're seeing a number of police officers there and a number of units they got out of their cruisers. It looks like we are seeing some more movement from inside of that car. Not sure if it's his hands outside of the car. If you can maybe zoom in a little bit, Rick, so we can try to get a little bit better of an angle of what exactly that suspect is doing. But a number of officers there with their guns drawn, probably giving them a number of orders.
Okay, there's a hand up right there.
Okay.
We'll push in a little. Okay. So he did have his arms out for a time, and now let's see what he's doing. Is he opening up the door there? No.
We were seeing some movement just a few seconds ago.
So we're adjacent to the south, at the far south end of the Camp Pendleton base here, the Camp Pendleton Marine base here, and this is the stretch of the 5 freeway. There really is no development on either side of the 5. This is that really nice stretch of the 5 coming out of Orange County as you make your way down towards Oceanside, and it's the southbound side that's being impacted. All southbound traffic is blocked right now on the San Diego freeway. This portion of the 5 freeway being called the San Diego freeway. And officers, both with lethal and non-lethal weapons drawn. They still don't know what they're dealing with. Again, we have an individual, unfortunately, we're hearing reports possibly suffering from some sort of mental illness, possibly having served our country at one time. And now, initially, it did appear that he was going to try to give up, but now he's staying inside the vehicle.
Does that rim belong to the Honda Civic?
No, that was there already. Yeah. Let's widen out, and we'll show you the traffic now on the 5 freeway for folks coming south out of San Clemente, San Onofre, towards San Diego. This stretch of 5 can always be busy, and now, again, a full traffic break, meaning traffic has been stopped, obviously for the safety of these motorists as this unfolds down below. We'll go back to that vehicle that is stopped now off to the right. Unclear why the suspect decided to pull over. Was the vehicle disabled somewhat by the multiple pit maneuvers, by possibly making impact with that spike strip? That's unclear at this time. Running out of gas, or just saying, hey, I'm done, and pulling over. And now, even though he's pulled over, not choosing to abide by the officers, by the California Highway Patrol, who now is the lead agency, Initially, it was Culver City, that's where the pursuit started a couple of hours ago plus now.
And now what happens now is that they just give him demands, obviously, to make sure his hands are outside of the vehicle so that they can then approach the vehicle, I would imagine, in a safe manner. They know that he isn't going to grab for, anything like a deadly weapon.
That's exactly right. And they have to expect the worst in a situation like this. Yes, they have intel on him, we believe, from his wife, who called law enforcement, having seen this probably on one of the media reports, and gave all that information to officers. They have that. In situations like this, though, it could just be a waiting game. It looks like he's moving around a little bit, looking inside a bag of some sort, inside the front of the vehicle. And in situations like this too, this has been a long pursuit. Hungry, maybe he has to use the restroom. There's a lot of things that come into play when these pursuits play out this long, and this has been a long one, running well over 2 hours now, a good 2 hours and 20 minutes or so from when that call came in about the young man on the scooter being hit and injured.
Rick, will officers actually approach the vehicle without him getting out?
We've seen that happen, and then we've seen the opposite. It just depends on the situation and on the agencies. There are some agencies, and I've seen this, where they're very aggressive. As soon as it comes to an end and you don't give up and they have a canine, they will rush that vehicle and pull that suspect out immediately. But other times they play it a little safer. They're more cautious, and we're seeing that now. We'll see what happens here. If they have access to a canine unit, that helps out, and that they could use that dog, which is an officer. Those dogs are highly trained officers. Okay, looks like the front door is opening now. So let's see what happens. The door. Oh, now he shuts it again. So he's playing a little bit of cat and mouse here.
Well, let's use this opportunity to do a recap for people who may be just joining us now. At 1:35 in the afternoon, you're watching an extended version of the Fox 11 News at noon. This is Marla Tejas alongside Vanessa Borge. Rick Dickert is up in Sky Fox. This is the end of a more than 2-hour police pursuit that is ending just north of Oceanside, southbound 5, deep into Orange County, or rather, San Diego County. It started in LA County in Culver City just after 11 o'clock this morning. This older model 4-door Honda Civic leading police on quite the pursuit. Again, started in Culver City for a failure to yield. In the midst of this pursuit, a pedestrian, a man in his 20s on a scooter.
It looks like a hand is out now.
A hand is coming out there. Was struck by this suspect.
Yeah, it looks like he's, it looks like he's going to surrender. Then he doesn't. He puts his hands out.
We're seeing a lot of movement, and the reason why you're seeing that smashed in windshield. Oh,
door opens again.
Open again.
So this is the Las Pulgas Road on and off ramp here. We're almost immediately over this stretch of the 5 freeway, and this is a training. This is a training area for the Camp Pendleton base, both at the shore and in the hills here, and a large area. This base covers a large area of real estate. And this stretch of the 5 freeway, because of that, isn't developed. It's just a military installation. The southbound side of the 5 is backing up quickly as all of that southbound traffic is held before Las Pulgas Road, before you get into Oceanside here. Again, this suspect having been pursued for well over 2 hours, finally pulling over, whether or not it was because he started to run low on gas, his vehicle was disabled, or if he just got too tired and decided to break off to the right. And now this is just a sit and wait situation.
Right, and there were 4 different pit maneuvers, failed pit maneuvers, and then 3 separate times they threw down spikes on the freeway as well. It looks like that car door is opening again. If we can pan down to the Honda, you can see I just saw the car door open once again. So again, as you mentioned, it's that cat and mouse game that he's playing with these officers.
And you can see the non-lethal and lethal weapons, as we talked up again. The colored weapons there, perhaps rubber bean bags or some sort of rubber bullets of some sort, and then lethal weaponry as well. They have to protect themselves. There's nobody in harm's way at this point, with the exception of those officers that tracked this suspect a good 85, 90 miles south down the 405 and 5 freeway to this point, just north of Oceanside in northern San Diego County. at the Camp Pendleton base here. All southbound traffic of the 5 freeway on the southbound side. Only the southbound side. Northbound traffic is still moving. Let's widen out and confirm that at Las Pulgas Road is blocked. Yeah, there's northbound traffic. You can see people hitting the brakes, a little looky-loose slowing here to see what's happening on the other side of the freeway. But if you are expecting someone coming north from the San Diego area up into Orange County and LA County, traffic at this point is open at this time. Again, just kind of a wait-and-see situation here.
A little different though,
freeway.
Rick, just a little different here is that the fact that the back window is completely blown out. So they do have some entry already into the vehicle.
That's true. Yeah, that back window, we believe, was first damaged by striking that scooter. And then the hard impacts of those 4 separate pit maneuvers likely just released that glass in the back. So it is completely open. Not much visibility on the front side either here.
And so we're seeing at this point now it's just a standoff. So again, they've been patient with him, driving down for miles on the freeway. Now we're in the upper portions of San Diego County, and now they're just sitting again and waiting for him to make some sort of move. Really, police have just been waiting for the suspect's reaction. And so now they wait, and as he sits in his car, and now it's really just a standoff at this point, correct, Rick?
And these have gone on and shut down freeways for hours in the past. We've seen suspects just sit there and wait it out. They're not in custody, and as long as they can delay that process, that's what they do. Again, this suspect may be dealing with some mental health issues, possibly serving our country, and came back with those issues because of his service to our nation. And we do know, though, he was driving erratically, very recklessly on surface streets through the Playa Del Rey area, through Inglewood, Westchester. When it was on surface streets, that's when the pit maneuvers were attempted. LAPD being very aggressive, trying to bring the pursuit to an end after having struck that young man on a scooter. But once he hopped on the 405, the 90, right through the Fox Hills area, he traveled at or below speed limits. He did not make any erratic, dangerous lane changes. And they just waited it out. They tried to stop it when they got the opportunities, the CHP did, with a couple of spike strips. We believe the second attempt, that spike strip made some sort of impact with the vehicle. That doesn't mean it damaged the vehicle enough to bring it to a stop. But the pursuit did pull over, and the suspect did pull over, and now it's just a waiting game.
And clearly we are going to continue to wait because obviously they don't want to approach that car and endanger themselves or anyone else because we are seeing there's still drivers. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of movement in that car as well.
He's waving something in the vehicle. It looks a little okay. Looks like now, perhaps, maybe.
He's talking.
Nope. Yeah, and then he shuts it back. We've seen that occur quite a bit.
And Rick, have you mentioned a canine yet?
I haven't seen one. Again, that would be very helpful in a situation like this. You ask, do agencies rush vehicles once they pull over? Some agencies do right away, and a lot of agencies, if they do have a canine unit, it makes it an easier process because that, as it's moving towards a vehicle and getting into the face of a suspect is a deterrent, and it will cause or at least expedite that process of a suspect giving up.
And as
we
you
haven't seen that yet.
That back windshield is blown out, so officers are giving him commands, and he can very well hear them. So he is just ignoring those commands to get out and keep everyone around them safe. And they're not sure if he has a weapon.
We just don't know. And we are possibly dealing with somebody who has some mental health issues, which makes it an even more cumbersome situation in handling something like this. We've seen all too often in recent years as mental health becomes such a problem across our country where there are incidents with officers dealing with individuals who are suffering and really are not in the right frame of mind and doing things they wouldn't do otherwise. And having to handle that and knowing what the right move is at the right time to bring this to an end and the suspect in custody is challenging. That's one of the most significant challenge these officers have as mental illness, that issue continues to grow in our country, not only here in Southern California.
All right, well, we've officially been on the air with this pursuit for 2 hours now, and we've seen the pursuit end here, but now that has just evolved into a standoff with CHP officers. There's, Rick, 4 CHP units there on the ground?
Let's count them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 as we tilt up. Looks like an unmarked vehicle. 5. Another vehicle. Looks like that's a CHP vehicle, I believe, in the center divider that's setting up on the northbound side, or some sort of law enforcement.
Interesting.
Oh, no, it's not. It looks like it's a media friend of ours from San Diego.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
from San Diego, coming north on the 5 freeway here, because this now is in San Diego County here, right? Near Camp Pendleton, north of Oceanside.
And the backup must be just grossly growing at this point.
It is growing rapidly. Yeah, I can see it on my real-time traffic system up here, the red lights, and then there it is, a live picture. Southbound side of the 5, coming away from San Onofre, just jammed all the way to this point at Las Pulgas Road here at Camp Pendleton, the base here.
And they're still letting that northbound side get through, though, which I'm surprised. When would you imagine they would start blocking that off to make sure that they're safe?
As of right now, they are, and it's all dependent upon the officers what they think is safe. And at this point, they're not too concerned with that northbound traffic still moving through. Again, unclear if the suspect is armed at this point, but that definitely has to be brought into consideration for the officers down below there. A number of units on scene here. From the CHP in northern San Diego County, and this is a waiting game. You can see the officers, and they, some of them just starting to take more of a relaxed pose. There's officers that are still trailing weaponry on the suspect and his vehicle there, but they've seen this all too often as well, where this just continues on. It can be the individual you're dealing with for hours. And we've seen freeways shut down for hours because of standoffs like this.
And we've been dealing with multiple agencies. First, it was Culver City Police that started off with this pursuit. They asked for more assistance, so LAPD stepped in. And then, of course, CHP finally took it over once the suspect entered the 405 in the Culver City area.
Yeah, that's right, because it was Culver City. And Culver City stayed with it for some time, but once it got onto the freeway, that's CHP handle. And they called for the backup from the CHP, and we saw that handoff from first Culver City, then Culver City getting assistance from the Los Angeles Police Department, and then the California Highway Patrol joining in. And then now it's just the CHP that's handled this. On that trek southbound on the 405 from the Fox Hills, Culver City area, past LAX, down to Long Beach, Seal Beach into Orange County, past John Wayne Airport. He had many opportunities to transition onto other roadways in addition to just exiting the freeway onto surface streets, but he chose to stay the course southbound on the 405, ending up at the Y, connecting with the 5. This portion of Interstate 5, the San Diego Freeway, south out of Orange County into northern San Diego County. We're north of Oceanside here at Camp Pendleton near Las Pulgas Road, where the standoff continues.
And it is surprising that he was able to even drive with the amount of damage that vehicle sustained. And you could see the front windshield. We imagine that is the impact from when he struck that scooter, that pedestrian that was on the scooter. And luckily, that man, who we're hearing is in his 20s, has non-life-threatening injuries because he did hit a pedestrian on a scooter in Playa Del Rey.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, he's going to have quite the harrowing story because based upon witnesses reporting the incident that he was perhaps on top of the windshield or on the roof, being drugged, possibly being run over, trying to get out of that situation safely. But now I believe you had reported that he was actually riding that scooter in the middle of traffic. It wasn't like he was...
right, that's what Susan had heard from people in the area. Witnesses said that they saw him riding that scooter in the middle lane, so not even in a bike lane. And that's possibly one of the reasons why he was hit, because the driver obviously trying to get away from police. Because this was initially failure to yield call. So that was the initial call as to why police were trying to get this man to pull over. And then he took off, and then it became this pursuit. He hit that pedestrian, and this pursuit now going on for about 2.5 hours, because that initial call of the pedestrian hit was at 11:14 this morning.
Just like they would any other human officer, being that they are officers, and this is a way that they can try to bring these to an end. As of right now, it just appears that the dog handler is holding the dog. We'll go back to that canine unit as we look. We're really not seeing much in the way of movement inside the vehicle. We haven't seen the door open in some time. There you go, a better look at the pooch down below there. A pooch that will not be friendly if told to be aggressive, trained to do such. The California Highway Patrol, you see the 2 units, you still see weapons drawn. in the lead vehicles there. A lot of officers standing back behind. And there's going to come a point where they're going to want to try something. And they are moving that dog around a little bit more. So let's see if they are getting ready to release the dog. And at times, the officers will roll up. The deal is that back windshield's open, and that dog is agile.
It's coming, so hopefully
that back windshield is open, and I believe that there is enough room for that dog to make its way through the back, and they're trained to do that. They can hop up on hoods, on trunks, and do whatever to gain access. So,
and what we're showing you on the left side of your screen right now to our viewers is a shot from one of our crews there on the 5. It seems southbound because they are stopped right now. So you're seeing that traffic back up on the south of 5 just before you get to Oceanside. And then, of course, we're seeing the suspect in his vehicle.
And that's the photographer, Gino Arias, who is a Fox 11 photographer. Hi, Gino. Thank you for being there. Can we speak to you? You're there? Okay.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead.
So tell us your vantage point. Obviously, you're just stopped southbound 5. So where exactly are you?
I just passed the power plant at San Onofre, so I'm guessing right now I'm a couple miles away from the Pulgas exit. Mm-hmm. I'm not moving very fast at all, right. So I'm probably just kind of creeping along here at a couple miles an hour.
Right. Well, they stopped traffic entirely on that southbound side of the 5 because of this standoff with that suspect. You can see it right here. We're panning up to show you the beginning of that traffic stop. And we're seeing a number of news crews as well out there, a number of people trying, getting out of their vehicles to see what's going on.
Sure. So, Gino, is it an option for you? Do you go on the shoulder at this point to get ahead, to get a clearer shot of the activity?
Well, here's my option right here. I can probably do this until probably somebody says, a CHP probably tells me that.
A couple of miles up ahead, there's a number of news crews that are set up on the side of the roadway as well, trying to get a shot of what's going on here. And we're still waiting for that.
I'll tell you, traffic's backed up probably about 2 or 3 miles right now, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, unless this thing resolves itself.
Sure. As you know, I'm sure you've heard that this guy, the suspect, led officers on a pursuit for more than 2 hours and finally stopped for unknown reasons. We don't know if he ran out of gas or because on his own will that he decided just to pull over here where he is, just north of Oceanside, right there in Camp Pendleton, as you are now on the shoulder there, Gino, southbound 5, making your way to the scene for us. Thank you very much for your perspective. We're looking live at the shot. The suspect still has not given up. He's still in that Honda Civic, the 4-door there. The windshield is completely blown out. And if you're just joining us, our photographer, Gino, he is making his way to this scene the best he can, bypassing traffic in the news vehicle, of course. And news crews are already set up there because this has become such the story of the day, without question, as we approach the 2 o'clock hour.
And you're seeing that backup for miles that Gino is doing his best to get through so he can get that vantage point for us as well and doing it safely. And then you're seeing on the right hand of your screen, we're seeing that standoff. There is a canine there. So we did see a canine on the scene. They haven't, obviously done anything just yet, but I'm sure that suspect knows that that's a potential that could happen soon, that they release that canine. And that back windshield is blown out, so that's important to note. That canine could essentially jump onto the back hood of that car and get into that vehicle through the back windshield.
And that's in fact what we're waiting to see. Gino, you're still able to get through? Are you being stopped?
No, it's difficult because people aren't very happy because I'm going around them. But my camera just went to the side here.
Oh, that's okay. No, well, sure, but it's not like you're not trying
to beat them to work. You're at work.
Yes,
trying to get to the scene.
You're doing a public service, so.
Right.
Thank you for that. And again, so we're back to the full shot from Skyfox. The situation, Rick, while we were with Gino, did you gather any more information? See anything?
Status quo. We haven't seen much movement from the suspect inside the vehicle for a time. We were seeing a lot of movement. the windows opening and closing the doors as well. The K-9 unit still down below there, guns still drawn. Southbound side of the 5 traffic at Las Pulsas Road still blocked. Looks like the window now is open now, so now he's unrolled the window. And again, if you are just joining, the windshield damage that you're seeing, that's not due to gunfire. It's due to the fact that this suspect, during the early stages of the pursuit, which started in Culver City, actually struck a man in his 20s on a scooter, and that's how that front windshield was damaged. The back glass had some minor damage, at least compared to the front at first, but then as a result of 4 really hard collisions, pit maneuvers by the Los Angeles Police Department when they were taking the lead on the pursuit, that essentially shattered the back window. So that back window is open. It is an option for that K-9 unit to make its way in. As of right now, again, just a wait-and-see game here. They're going to let this play out as long as they can. Time is on their sides. They don't feel that anybody is in immediate danger. People up ahead will tilt the camera back to the backup, which continues to grow. It's miles and miles. That's the backup that Gino's trying to make his way through.
Sure.
As we push in, you can see all the people that have come out of their vehicles as well to check out to see what's going on. And obviously frustrated people walking up to the front there. The news media positioning themselves as well. And let me show you the backup. This is your ride on the southbound side of the 5, the San Diego Freeway, coming away from San Onofre down towards Oceanside. This location is north of Oceanside, near the Camp Pendleton base. Look at that backup, and it just continues to grow, and there is no alternate. This is not an area where Pacific Coast Highway nicely parallels the shoreline here in Southern California. You either have the 5 freeway here, or you have to go well inland away from Camp Pendleton. Camp Pendleton occupies a tremendous amount of real estate here in coastal San Diego County.
And Rick, we are hearing that there has been a request made for SWAT, which...
That's typical with the standoff.
Okay.
That's definitely typical with a standoff. And they have those vehicles. They have those heavily armored vehicles that they can ride right up against an individual that's barricaded and essentially box he or she in, that vehicle in, and with that hard armor are protected. And they can look in and see what's going on. They can also use drones.